This is a presentation from the Supernaut Network.
Hello, welcome back to the episode 8 of Resist or Serve, the limited event series of podcasts focusing on the X-Files here at the Supernauts. This is IAB, and with me my co-host Puck Propaganda.
Hello everyone. Prepare for a very long episode.
Yeah, well, it's been a long time since the last one. I guess we survived Christmas, we survived some server problems, and we survived New Year's, so...
Yeah, not too bad.
Yep.
Now, today I've been struck down with broken glasses, so I'm wearing my prescription sunglasses. And for some reason my ear started to bleed, so I don't know what the fuck is going on.
It's a conspiracy, man. It's aliens.
Yeah.
Well, we have a lot to cover, so it's best to just get on with it. And this is going to be a slightly longer episode than the previous ones because we have combined seasons 8, 9, as well as the second movie into this one. So I guess best place to start is to go through the mythology, and there's lots of it.
Yeah, so we'll go through the mythology of just 8, I guess, first. And
I don't know, or maybe just, it's not, the mythology in seasons 8 and 9 is pretty much connected, so might as well go through the whole chunk first.
Okay. Yeah, that's true. There's not a lot of mythology in 8 anyway, I believe. It's mostly in 9.
Mm-hmm. If one were to kind of compress everything into a single sentence, even that might work, but I'd best go the long way around. So, we begin as Fox Mulder has vanished, to quote an opening crawl for a certain movie. But yeah, so Special Agent John Doggett is assigned to lead the task force that's trying to track down Mulder. And meanwhile, Scully, Skinner, and the Lone Gunman are kind of conducting their own investigation, finding out from satellite images the stopping points of the UFO that took Mulder at the end of the previous season, and they end up finding that it has landed near its next target, which is the chess prodigy / mind reader Gibson Praise, who is hiding in a school for deaf children. And all the parties kind of gather to this place, and we see someone who looks like Mulder actually snatching Gibson, but it turns out that it's just the alien bounty hunter again, collecting trophies. And Mulder himself is trapped inside the UFO, and he's going through, well, one might call them experiments, but for me it looks more like some torture out of a Hellraiser movie.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, it's some pretty extreme shit that's happening there. It's almost like the showrunners wanted to punish the company for leaving the show or something.
I have like the same note. Yeah, it's like, you're only going to come back every now and then, Mulder? Well, we're going to torture you.
Yeah. Of course, some of these scenes are kind of shown like there are some nightmares that Scully are having, but, some are real and some aren't, I guess.
Yep. Yeah, I like the look of the ship and stuff for Mulder's, too. It's, like, kind of dirty and old school, kind of feel to it, so that you kind of see that it, I guess, fits with the bounty hunters as opposed to a more like polished alien feel.
Well, I mean, he's kind of a, whatchamacallit, a trapper that's traveling through space.
Yeah.
You know, it's not the looks, it's the functionality. And so, well, they fail to catch Mulder, and he's off for pretty much until the midpoint of the season. But in the meanwhile, Scully is kind of forced to work with Doggett on several cases, and she finds some information that some abducted women have been impregnated with alien babies, and she begins to kind of question about what exactly is she carrying. And Doggett also calls his old friend Agent Reyes to help. She's kind of a specialist in ritualistic crime, as they say it.
Yeah.
But anyway, so mid-season we find out that the aliens are kind of dumping abductees all around the world. First, one of the original abductees from the pilot episode, Billy Miles, is found kind of floating face down in the ocean, completely bloated. But when he's on the autopsy table, they find out that he's actually still alive, sort of. So this, of course, prompts Skinner to dig up. No, wait. So yeah, Billy Miles is found, and a little bit later on, Mulder's body is found.
Yeah.
And he's buried.
Supposedly dead.
Supposedly dead. But as Billy Miles is discovered and he's found out to be alive, this prompts Skinner to dig up Mulder's body. It's about 3 months after the burial.
Yep.
And of course they find out that he's not... well, first, he's pretty well preserved for someone who has been under the ground for 3 months. And he's also not quite dead.
Yep. We also get the introduction of the super soldiers here, which Billy Miles...
Yeah, it's a pretty creepy scene when Billy Miles suddenly rises up from his hospital bed and takes a little shower where he practically sheds his skin. quite a gross scene.
Yeah. Very well done, though.
Yeah. But yeah, so at this point, Krycek again shows up, kind of offering a cure for Mulder, but he has a condition that Skinner must kill Scully's baby before it's born. Of course, Skinner says no, not a fucking way, so he kind of, well, he unplugs all the life support systems from Mulder, which turns out to be a good thing, because apparently that cure that Krycek was offering would have just turned Mulder into a super soldier like Billy Miles as well, but in fact, unplugging the systems help and Mulder slowly starts to recover.
Is that what the cure would have done? I never...
I think they stated that if they had proceeded with Krycek's cure, Mulder would have ended up like Billy Miles.
Oh, okay. I thought... I could be wrong. I thought that just the fact that they were keeping him on life support and more or less incubating him was going to turn... He already had the super soldier stuff in him.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And taking him off life support prevented that from acting, and that Scully helped with the antiviral drugs to get rid of it.
I think that Krycek's cure might have just kind of...
Sped it up or something?
Sped it up, yeah.
Okay.
But I could be wrong. I mean, it's all very confusing at this point.
By the way, Mulder is not a super soldier.
Yeah.
Which would have been awesome. He should have turned into a super soldier.
Well, it would have helped, I guess.
Yeah, kicked some ass everywhere.
But so, Mulder kind of gets back into shape and tries to get back into FBI, but, he kind of keeps, disobeying rules, and especially after an incident when he and Doggett go to an oil rig that's accidentally drilling black oil from the bottom of the Gulf of Mexico, he gets fired. So that kind of begins Mulder's unofficial investigations, which I guess, based on the teasers for the revival series, are still going on.
More or less.
But yeah, so as the season 8 closes to an end, Scully's birth is becoming closer and closer. It turns out that several different parties are after the baby, and these would be the super soldiers, which Krycek pretty much states that several high-ranking government and FBI personnel have been replaced by these super soldiers, which really have superhuman strength and are basically indestructible. As we see when Billy Miles is dropped into a garbage truck and basically ground up, but then he kind of, from this metallic vertebrae type of a thing, kind of starts to rebuild himself.
Yeah, he reconstructs.
Yeah. So, of course, Krycek once again tries to betray everybody, and well, this causes the gunshot that made probably several million people to cheer when Skinner finally puts a bullet between Krycek's eyes.
Yeah.
Finally!
Yeah, much to the joy of everyone.
8 fucking years. Well, okay, 7.
It'll be hilarious if they somehow bring him back into the series.
I don't see that happening.
No, I don't either. That's possibly right.
No. I mean, while Mulder, Doggett, and Skinner are kind of distracting the super soldiers, Reyes takes Scully into this desert location to give birth. But somehow the super soldiers track them down, and Scully has, I guess that would be one of the most nightmarish birth scenarios, when there's several dozens of super soldiers standing around you and watching at the same time. Then, just as she has given birth, Mulder arrives via helicopter, and all the super soldiers are already driving away. I mean, I guess the only explanation that's given to this is that apparently the baby was not what they expected, or something.
Yeah, I guess they were expecting a more physical identification that the baby was special, and seeing that the baby more or less looked normal, they kind of left.
Yeah.
Which alludes back to the whole birth of Christ thing and all that jazz.
No, I mean, yeah, I mean, you could say that there are some Christ metaphors. I mean, even Mulder coming back, but I mean, he took 3 months, not 3 days, so he's not quite the messiah of the conspiracy theorists. But yeah, so season 8 basically ends with Mulder, Scully, and the baby in her apartment.
Correct.
Yeah. And Doggett and Reyes are now basically assigned to the X-Files full-time.
Which would have been an okay series finale, but we continue on.
Yeah, because then there's unfortunately season 9, where
I won't go as far as to say unfortunately, but we'll get to that in a little.
Yeah, well, you know, after the core family has gotten together in the end of season 8, well, season 9 begins with an off-screen Mulder taking a shower and having all his bags packed, and he basically gets the fuck out of Dodge. Not to be seen until the season finale.
Correct.
So that was the first mistake. But anyway, so we meet some new characters, like another assistant director, Brad Fulmer, played by Cary Elves, who is I think one of the most redundant additions to the ever-growing directors.
Yeah, he's a little hit or miss for the season.
Yeah, I mean, Cary Elves is a good actor, but I think that character is just a wasted opportunity. I think the only important part of his personality is that he's kind of a former squeeze of Reyes, and that's about it.
And one of the problems with Cary Elves is, I mean, he is a good actor, but he's one of those guys that kind of needs the right material.
Mm.
He can overact very easily.
Yeah, that's true.
At times. But yeah, he does have, I guess, a bit of a payoff in the show near the end of the season, but other than that, he's really misused.
Yeah, yeah. So the super soldiers are still kind of causing havoc. I guess the term that Krycek used in the previous season is that the super soldiers are kind of preparing Earth for the imminent alien invasion. I think that was the idea behind them.
Yeah, they're basically, I guess, Plan B. Whereas the earlier colonization involved the, I guess, the virus that would have been used on humanity, and mostly in regards to the black oil. And now this is Plan B, as in to create more of a, I guess, a hybrid race.
I mean, I guess the head of the super soldiers would be an old military partner of Duggett's called Noel Rohr, played by Adam Baldwin.
Yes.
Who everybody, of course, remembers from Full Metal Jacket as Animal Mother. and also one of Duggett's unit called Shannon McMahon, played by Lucy Lawless, kind of leads them on the trail of the government trying to prepare adding the alien virus into the water supplies.
Yes. I think she does really well in the 2-episode premiere.
Yeah,
I think the problem, or one of the reasons why there's so little mythology in season 9 is because there were probably plans to use her character a lot more that ended up being scuffled when she became pregnant.
I would have liked to have seen her more, but
definitely.
Well, and also the super soldiers have been kind of destroying all the evidence to the alien baby insemination. They are burning and blowing up labs all over the place.
Yep.
Including one on a naval ship that gets kind of spectacularly blown off in the premiere. But yeah, so a little bit later on, there's this mysterious shadow man from, I guess he's supposed to be NSA, who tries to lure Mulder to resurface by offering some kind of evidence or something. It's actually funny that this shadow man is once again played by Terry O'Quinn. I mean, I guess in the Millennium X-Files universe, this is the third character he has played. But, well, turns out that this shadow man is once again a super soldier who is attempting to assassinate Mulder. But this is where we find that these super soldiers actually have a weakness when, well, it could be Mulder or it could be just whatchamacallem, a lookalike. Because he's really seen from a distance. He kind of lures this shadow man into a rock quarry, and it turns out that there's this special mineral called magnetite, which destroys these super soldiers, and this shadow man kind of gets sucked into the cliff, for lack of a better description.
Yeah, we also get the revelation a little earlier as well that Baby Williams does have some apparent gifts, being telekinetic abilities.
Yeah, he moves this, what is it, a mobile?
Yeah, baby mobile. while.
Yeah, over his bed, seemingly with his mind. And then later on, we go back to that those engravings of the UFO and a shard of the kind of piece of artifact, which also seems to be attracted to Baby William.
Yes. And then this strange, I guess, UFO cult seems to want to get their hands on Baby William.
Yeah,
as well.
which they actually do, but as a result, the entire cult gets kind of blown off by the UFO that launches to the sky. But miraculously, Baby William is unharmed.
Yep. And we kind of get this revelation that basically they believe Baby William is the, I guess, savior, but only if Mulder is kept alive. And if Mulder happened to die, then Baby William, I guess, would be the Antichrist or some other sort of downfall to humanity.
Well, it looks like everybody is after Baby William, because a little bit later on, there's this disfigured man that first he searches some files in the X-Files office, and Doggett interrupts him, and this guy looks like Freddy Krueger's worst nightmare, basically. I mean, he's burned up pretty bad, but
it's pretty good prosthetics here.
yeah, but based on the fact that he seems to know a lot of things, this kind of leads Doggett to suspect that this guy is actually Mulder. So they do a blood test. And it turns out that this guy has the same DNA pattern as Mulder, but, well, as we know, there is another guy who has the same pattern, and it turns out that this is the good old Jeffrey Spender, who is not quite dead, but he sure looks like it. Turns out that the cigarette-smoking man did in fact shoot him, but he did not kill him way back when. And Jeffrey has been subjected to some pretty horrific tests. I guess he was the first kind of test subject for this super soldier stuff, but Jeffrey is definitely not a super soldier. He's just a very crippled man.
Yeah, he kind of just got fucked up in the wall.
Well, anyways, Jeffrey injects something into Baby William, which he claims is for his protection. So it's kind of Jeffrey's last kind of a fuck you to the conspiracy.
Yeah. And yeah, as far as we know, William basically turns into a normal baby. Which I kind of hope they come back to this thread at some point, but the miniseries probably won't tackle it. It might be something in the future.
Yeah, but anyway, this was kind of the last straw, and Scully is forced to give Baby William up for adoption into some extremely distant location where he's safe.
Yeah. And we also, I guess, for the first time get official confirmation that the cigarette-smoking man is Mulder's father. I mean, it's hinted at a lot before this, but once the DNA thing comes in, this is basically it's definitely him.
No. Jeff reconfirms it, finally.
Yeah.
But yeah, so then we get to the two-part finale called The Truth, which begins by Mulder kind of, well, not breaking in, but infiltrating this military base inside a mountain, and he to find some information, and he's faced with Noel Rohr, who he pushes over the balcony and apparently kills. So he's put under military arrest, and he's facing trial for murder. I guess you could say that the finale is pretty much a courtroom drama, where the entire 9-year conspiracy is kind of used as a testimony on Mulder's defense. We get basically everybody who's still alive comes back, like Marita Kovarubias, and Gibson Grace returns, and of course Mulder, who is, I guess he's pretty much beat up on a daily basis by the guards. He sees some hallucinations of some people we already thought were dead, like Krycek and X, and the lone gunmen who are who we are told are dead, but we'll get to that a bit later on. So Mulder is found guilty and is facing execution, but of course the team will not have it, so Scully, Reyes, Doggett, Skinner, they break Mulder out, and also Kirsch finally mans up, and he's kind of the final piece who gets them to run away.
Yeah.
Kind of saying that this is something I should have done years ago. I guess Kirsch finally reveals that he's a good guy after all. And so Mulder and Scully go to New Mexico to see a quote-unquote wise man who is told to be the keeper of the truth. And of course this is the cigarette-smoking man, looking pretty shaman-like, with his long white hair, and
Cigarette smoking man has found faith, apparently.
I don't know if it's faith. I mean, it's just the best possible place to hide. It's this kind of old Indian settlement, which is very conveniently surrounded by magnetite. So, it's a perfect hiding place from the super soldiers, or so he thought.
Yeah.
I mean, Roar appears, but he gets pretty soon sucked into the cliffs, but they come up with some bigger weapons. A couple of military helicopters that basically...
They don't have to get close.
But I mean, Cigarette Smoking Man basically confirms the information that Mulder found in the army base at the beginning of the episode, that the invasion is set and it's supposed to happen. I forget what the hell was the date.
December 22nd, 2012.
Oh yeah, no. So it's already happened. No worries.
We've been fucking infiltrated, people.
Yeah. But yeah, so the military helicopters blow the shit out of the place and seemingly kill Cigarette Smoking Man, which, at least based on the teasers of the revival, is not so.
No, it's looking unlikely.
So, in the end, Mulder and Scully are kind of on the run from FBI, the super soldiers, the government, basically on the run from everybody. And our last scene in this motel room, and I think Mulder's final line was that, I guess there's hope.
Yep. And Reyes and Doggett escape as well, and the X-Files get closed down again.
Again, yeah, I think this was the third or fourth time.
Third time.
But yeah, so that's the mythology in a nutshell.
Yep. That is it. And yeah, because the movie doesn't really have any mythology, so we'll get to that later.
Yeah.
Okay, so before we get into our favorite episodes, I guess, I'll do my season evaluation thing.
Yeah.
So season 8 is still great. I ended up getting a 7.1 out of 10, which is the lowest so far, because the lowest previously was the opening season, which had a 7.4. But anything 7 and up is great on my scale. So I mean, it's still a great season. It has Mulder around enough to make it, I guess, relevant in that way for fans that want more of Duchovny.
Yeah, that was my biggest kind of plus points for season 8. That it still has Duchovny as Mulder in about half of the episodes.
Yeah, exactly. So basically half of it you're covered, and the other half, I'd say roughly half of that works fairly well. There's some Doggett-centric episodes that are really good, and
yeah, true.
Scully. Well, Scully's kind of underused, I guess, in season 8 compared to season 9, really. But when she's there, she seems more interested and whatnot. So yeah, I think season 8 is definitely worthy of watching. I mean, obviously people are going to bash it anyway because of what happened, and so some of that is tackled in specific episodes, which we'll get to later as well. But yeah, season 8, great. And then we get to season 9, which I know you are harsh on, and most people are harsh on, but I think it was good. It came out to a 6.4, which even that was a little higher than I expected, but I would give it a 6 out of 10 if I would have just kind of did it on my own without doing the numbers. I guess the 6.4 was helped by a few really great episodes, overbalancing the mediocre ones. But yeah, a 6 on my scale is good, and I mean, if this was any other series, it probably would be considered better than what it is, I think. But when you have to go back and compare it to the rest of the series, which is a strong 7 or a high 8 and 9 throughout, it's definitely a step back.
Yeah, I think, well, first of all, I want to say that my viewing preferences kind of changed during these last 2 seasons to the fact that, I mean, previously I've said that I pretty much prefer the standalone episodes over the mythology.
Yeah.
But I guess the exactly almost the opposite thing happened, especially in season 8, because the mythology episodes are pretty much the ones that have Mulder in them, so those became kind of the must-watch.
Yeah, the season 8 mythology episodes are really strong. I mean, they kind of get a bit messy, as people say, and that. But I really like the stuff with William, and I think the super soldiers are really well done. I mean, a lot of people don't like them, I guess, because they're so indestructible and blah blah blah. But I think they're a really good antagonists to throw in there, because I mean, they need something stronger to deal with after everything they've dealt with through 7 seasons.
Yeah.
What are they just going to fight regular people for another 2 seasons or what, right?
No, I mean, I guess the only kind of strong opponent in the previous seasons was the alien bounty hunter.
Exactly, and they're basically gone because they more or less did their job.
I mean, yeah, and they have killed several alien bounty hunters before.
Exactly. So they needed something stronger, and for that, I think the super soldiers work fine.
It's kind of the super soldiers are kind of an interesting, kind of a Terminator connection. You have Robert Patrick, and then you have these Terminator-like creatures. So it's kind of a bizarre Terminator-esque type of a thing.
And it's cool how they bring back some of the abductees as those super soldiers too. Like, I mean, it ties everything back to, I guess, why were they abducted, and gets back some long lost characters like Billy Miles.
No, I think the main thing that's bothering me about the mythology is that, I mean, I wrote it in my notes. It's, everything seems to evolve around the baby William. I mean, that kind of jars me. I called him MacGuffin the baby. I mean, basically,
Yeah.
I mean, everybody's after him. I mean, Krycek is after him, super soldiers are after him, UFO cults are after him. I mean, it kind of, I don't know. As this, I mean, this basically went on from the end of season 8 to midpoint season, near the end. So, but it kind of made me feel a bit like, really? I mean, is this?
Yeah.
Have they officially run out of ideas? Because it seems like every mythology episode is, the baby is in danger. We have to protect the baby. Where is the baby? Why are they trying to get the baby? I don't know.
It's true.
Yeah.
It is a bit of a cheap, I guess, tactic or way to revolve the story around this central MacGuffin, just like you said.
Yeah, and it also makes Scully a bit of a damsel in distress, which I really fucking hate.
That's true as well.
Yeah.
Like even when we'll get to this later, but going through my favorite episodes, like there's not really much of Scully to like in season 89.
She basically becomes a supporting character in her own show for large portions. I mean, I know that it's because they decided to write her real-life pregnancy into the story this time, but, you know, it's a bit of lazy storytelling.
Yeah, definitely. Yep, I agree.
But as far as the new characters, you know, Doggett and Reyes, I mean, I never hated Robert Patrick. I just felt that Doggett is a bit too humorless at sometimes.
Yes, that would have been my one complaint about him as well. Like, I mean, Robert Patrick is great on the series. His acting is top notch in a lot of episodes, and I mean, we'll get to that when I get to my favorites because he's a key piece of most of them.
Yeah.
And there's really nothing he does wrong per se throughout the 2 seasons. It's just that his character is such a, I guess, departure from Mulder and Scully's how they work. That it really threw a lot of fans off, and it lost some of the humorous aspects.
Yeah, I mean, I've read this discussion online last week where what Zissou and Ponyboy were having about Criminal Minds and how utterly serious and formulaic that show is. It kind of feels like Doggett would be a perfect fit into some type of a procedural show like Criminal Minds, but in the more supernatural show like X-Files, he stands out a little bit.
He does, yeah. And it's kind of, I guess, ironic in a sense, and we'll get to this again later, but probably his best performance on the entire show is one that's doesn't really have much to do with the paranormal at all, if anything, really. So, but that's not one of my favorite episodes, but we'll mention it briefly anyway.
And then there's Reyes, who, I mean, she's a perfect fit to the show. It's kind of a shame that she was not the new main lead at first. I mean, she's weird. She's like she's like the new Mulder.
Yeah,
in some
she's
sense.
like a new age Mulder, I guess you'd call it. And yeah, she kind of joins in more on season 9.
Yeah.
But she was a little, I guess, underdeveloped in compared to Doggett as well.
Yeah, true.
But yeah, she held her own.
Yeah. So, speaking of these episodes, let's get to it. So, I guess we decided to have kind of two picks from both seasons and then some other mentionable ones.
Yeah, we'll do 2 picks per season so that this episode doesn't make people listen for like 2 hours.
Yeah.
And after that, we'll talk about a few more. But yeah, let's do our 2 picks for season 8 anyway first.
Yeah.
And do you want to start?
Okay. So my first pick for season 8 is episode 4 called Roadrunners, which is written by Vince Gilligan, who I guess only wrote 1 episode per season these last 2 seasons.
I discovered that you're wrong on that, but we'll get to that later.
Okay. Well,
It's a Vince Gilligan episode, so that's what we'll say.
that should be enough, actually. But you know.
Actually, you might be right on season 8. But I did find that he wrote a couple other ones in season 9.
Oh, okay. So the basic premise of this episode is that Scully is kind of working on a missing persons case that's linked to a murder case that resembles one old X-File case. And it basically gets her stranded in the middle of this desert town that's not even on any maps. And she slowly learns that this town is inhabited by this religious cult that worships this kind of a, well, what looks basically like a giant slug.
Yeah.
which can transfer from person to person. And, well...
The slug is Jesus!
yeah. I mean, that's the first thing that kind of makes me enjoy this episode. I mean, it's just a brilliant kind of satire on religious cults as in the all. But also, it has some pretty clever ideas. Like, you know, this cult is basically traveling with a bus on the back roads of nowhere and picks up passengers in hopes of finding a perfect host for its slug, because it turns out that it kills its hosts during the course of time, and then they have to find another one again.
Yeah, they're hoping to find that right body that the slug won't reject.
Yeah, and this, of course, brings about some pretty gruesome scenes as they have to take the slug out of the previous host. They basically have to beat them to a pulp with rocks. You know, so it's your good old basic stoning.
Indeed.
And also
We need to reinstitute stoning.
yeah. and also the slug is a pretty creepy one in itself. I mean, some pretty great practical effects here.
Yeah, the slug is genuinely like slimy looking, and it's just slug-like.
Anyway, it's a slug. Yeah, not much to say about it, but yeah.
Yep.
You know, kind of a good blend of funny and creepy at the same time.
Yep.
And of course, Doggett kind of shows up to save the day in the end.
As he's prone to do this season.
Yeah, he does that a lot.
Yep.
But yeah, Roadrunners, that's my first pick. It's also one of those that is pretty suitable for people who are not regular viewers.
Yeah, it's one of the better Monster of the Week episodes this season for sure.
Yeah.
One of the best ones. I mean,
Yeah.
I didn't pick it, but it would have been on my list more than likely if you hadn't.
Yeah.
Or would have been in my top 3, I'd say.
Yeah.
But we're doing top 2, so I guess we'll move on to my first pick.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to go with Via Negativa, which is basically an episode about a cult leader who develops the power to telepathically murder people in their dreams. So yeah, you're thinking Freddy Krueger right away, but
How did you guess?
it's nothing like that at all, people. So anyway, he gets this power through the use of these hallucinogenic drugs that take him to a supposed higher plane of existence, which is why we all do drugs. So this creates a very David Lynch-like episode where it's shot very strangely, and the atmosphere and all that dreamlike quality with a sense of dread and everything like that. Yeah, it's got, like I said, very David Lynch-like. Probably David Lynch light, I guess you'd call it, more so than going the whole mile that David Lynch would go. But
Yeah, man, now you're making me wish that David Lynch would do an X-Files episode.
he should, or at least get the company back for Twin Peaks. That'll satisfy me too.
Well, we'll see.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, this is basically a Robert Patrick episode completely, as Doggett. Skinner's around as well a bit, and Scully is there a little bit, but for the most part, it's all Doggett and the guest star who plays the cult leader, but we'll get to him in a little bit. So anyway, yeah, Patrick's performance here is really good, and it's quite varied. He goes through a wide range of emotions based on these dreams: anger, fear, confusion, empathy, and the whole final dream sequence with him and an axe is pretty powerful, with him turning it around on himself, essentially. So yeah, as for that guest star, that would be Keith Sarabaika, I think is how you pronounce his last name. And he's a cult leader, Anthony Tippett. He's a guy he's one of those like typical character actors that you've probably seen in stuff before or heard of him, but don't really know who he is.
I remember him from... Oh, God. It was either Buffy or Angel.
Angel, I think.
Yeah, Angel. Yeah, that's right.
And he was a co-star on the 80s show The Equalizer, and he was on that Fox series Prophet that me and Bob really like.
Never heard of it.
Other than that, he's more known for nowadays as a voice actor. He's pretty much fucking everything.
Well, he does have a great voice.
He does, and his voice is actually pretty varied too. When you listen to the different characters he's done, I was on some voice character like database. You could like listen to clips of different ones, and like he's done characters for was it Wild Thornberrys and Star Wars, and he was Laserbeak in that one of those shitty Michael Bay Transformers movies, and and a shitload of games: Mass Effect, Dead Space, Dragon Age, Halo, Fallout, Elder Scrolls. Like pretty much every AAA game is like, yeah, we're gonna go get this guy because he's the man. So yeah, you've definitely heard him before, people, but you just might not know who he is. And yeah, anyway, he does a really good job here. He's completely unhinged for the most part, yet he's kind of sympathetic at the end as well, because he tries to more or less stop the fact that he's killing people. And yeah, back to the whole Nightmare on Elm Street aspect of it. Like I said, you'd think it's a ripoff of that, but it goes beyond that concept really by incorporating this third eye, Eastern religious concept that more or less entails opening yourself up to a new reality to become closer to God. And this creates a lot of the unique imagery in the show with characters suddenly seeing a third eye on themselves or others, and that ties into the whole David Lynch thing like I mentioned earlier. And it also gives the killer, well, even though it turns out he's not really wanting to kill people, but it kind of explains the reason for why he's killing people. In a different way than Freddy Krueger, obviously. He was just looking for revenge, more or less. But yeah, so that's it for that episode. I really enjoyed it, and if you want to know more about Third Eye, just listen to the amazing song by Tool that deals with the concept.
Okay. So my second pick for Season 8 is an episode called Alone, which basically deals with...
Very good episode.
Yep, and it also has a kind of a sequel, which I believe is one of your picks for Season 9.
Correct.
Yeah. But anyway, Alone deals with, well, Scully is starting her maternity leave, and Doggett gets paired up with this young agent from accounting, if I remember correctly, called Layla Harrison, who, well, she's basically an X-Files groupie. she has, I guess, read every single case file that Mulder and Scully have ever worked on, and she kind of knows them back and forth. And, well, she accompanies Doggett to a murder scene where they discover some slimy piece of evidence, which kind of course, Agent Harrison is quick to suspect some lizard man, and it turns out she's right. Sort of. Yeah. Because Doggett and Harrison get kind of dropped into this trapdoor, into this cave, which is inhabited by this bizarre lizard-like, well, I guess you could just say a pretty fucking big lizard. And Mulder, who at this point has been fired, is kind of just, you know, he's kind of following up. And so he turns up at the location, much to Skinner's dismay. I mean, Skinner just said, "What the hell are you doing here?" "Just taking a walk in the woods."
Looking for something to do.
Yeah. So Mulder turns up at this house near where Doggett and Harrison were lost, and he finds this guy who is basically I guess he's a molecular biologist or something, who has been experimenting on lizards. It turns out that he has kind of become his own experiment, and he is this big lizard. He's kind of transforming from human to lizard and back. And a great guest star playing this character is he's Zach Grenier, who I guess is most known as Edward Norton's boss in Fight Club.
Ah, yes.
But anyway, so I guess this is the first time in season 8 where Doggett is not the one who comes to the rescue, but Mulder, who rescues both Doggett and Harrison from the Lizard Man at the last minute.
Yeah, that's true.
Really, I guess this is one of the first more humorous episodes concerning Doggett. Because I mean he's because he's constantly kind of pestered by the theories of Harrison, you know, and as she has read all the X-Files, she has some pretty wild theories.
Actually, there is a funny episode before this one involving Doggett, but it's not funny because it tries to be funny.
Oh.
I'll mention that after.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, one of the things I really liked about this episode was that medallion that Scully gives to Doggett in the beginning, or was it Mulder? Or whoever it was, anyway.
It's the Apollo 11
Yes.
memorial. What the hell
And
was
then
it?
that ends up becoming a clue as to his whereabouts at the end.
Yeah.
It's kind of a little thing, but
Oh yeah, I mean,
it's
you know.
nice to have explanations sometimes for how people are found in that, as opposed to just being, oh, it was an X-File paranormal.
No, it's actually a pretty good line from Mulder when he calls Scully that he's apparently re-gifted.
Yeah.
when he calls her just after he found the medallion, and he says that
Yes,
I think they are here, so I'm going on a stakeout.
Yeah, we also get a lot of funny lines from the Layla Harrison character in reference to Mulder and Scully, like, how did they return from Antarctica? That's apparently one of the only, I guess, flight itineraries that didn't come across her desk, so she doesn't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think that question was posted on some message boards after the movie.
Yeah.
You know, so how in the hell did they get back?
Yeah, so it really plays up the fans' take on the direction the show has went, and with that character.
No, I mean, yeah, Harrison is basically an X-Files fan who became part of the X-Files. So.
Yep.
Well, obviously, seeing a giant lizard man kind of was a little bit too much. So I guess she goes back to her safe job in the accounting, at least for a while.
Yep. So yeah, now we'll go to my other pick, which I guess is sort of a mythology episode, because you did mention it briefly. But at this point, I guess the black oil is so far removed from the mythology that is almost a standalone, or works really well as a standalone at least. And that's Vinan, or Venan, I'm not sure how you pronounce it. And yeah, so basically it's discovered that black oil is infecting workers on an oil rig in the Gulf of Mexico, and Doggett is sent to investigate, thanks to Mulder interfering and making the case known to the FBI, essentially. And then when Doggett arrives on the platform, he discovers Mulder has already beat him there.
Yeah.
So then we get the unlikely partnership of the two to see what actually happened on the rig, which leads to some pretty good chemistry between Duchovny and Patrick, and they slowly, I guess, warm up to each other.
I don't know. I mean, there is chemistry, but I guess Doggett and Mulder have this certain antagonism towards each other, basically through the course of this, at least through the course of season 8.
Yeah, that's true. They do come around to each other a little bit, though, because I mean, prior to this episode, Mulder basically wanted nothing to do with him. So they get a little bit closer. And kind of works as a bit of a passing of the torch to Doggett episode in a way, but that officially happens a little later on. But we do get that at the end of the episode, because basically Mulder takes the fall for all the shit that happens on the rig, and basically that allows Doggett to remain on the X-Files, where Mulder admits that the credibility he brings to the X-Files is keeping it open, whereas he can't lend that credibility to it anymore.
Yeah, I mean, Mulder was on the way out anyway, and he knows it.
Exactly. So another thing I liked about the episode was the seclusion aspect, which has been a popular theme in a lot of X-Files episodes, but hasn't been touched on in a while. So the fact that they're basically trapped on this rig and surrounded by an army of black oil infectees makes it really suspenseful. Even though you know they're going to live, but whatever, it's still pretty suspenseful. And I've always loved the black oil, so it's nice that gets kind of a send-off episode.
Yeah, I guess that's the final time it's seen.
Yeah, it hasn't been seen since. So that's it for the black oil. And other than that, there's a lot of guest stars on this episode, but most of them I'm not particularly familiar with, other than MC Gainey, who plays the crew chief and basically kills and infects a lot of people. Been a fan of his ever since he drove that limo in the Mighty Ducks.
Oh.
Actually, no, I didn't know who he was back then. But I guess the first time I noticed him was he played this like crazy truck driver in that, I think it was Kurt Russell movie, Breakdown.
Yeah.
And that's a pretty good movie. He was
underrated for sure. Yeah.
Yep. So there's him, and the last thing I'll mention is the crew of the oil rig are seen watching hockey on television at the beginning of the episode, so that's always cool. I was trying to figure out what hockey game they were watching, but the fucking footage, you can't zoom in enough to see what teams it is.
No,
I don't know if it's real footage or staged footage or what.
I can just see you getting as frustrated as the crew is in the diner.
I'm trying to figure it out. Like, is this a fucking playoff game, maybe, or are these NHL teams? I can't tell. But yeah, in the credits, there's an actual credit for one of the a known sports announcer, and he did cover hockey at the time. So it's strange that he would be credited if it was just, I guess, archive footage or whatever.
You know,
it probably was recreated, I'm thinking.
That could be that the footage is archived, but, the announcing is recorded afterwards.
Yes, that's true. It could be new announcing over old footage. Yeah. But anyway, that's it for that episode, and, now we'll go on to, I guess, a few other episodes if there's anything to talk about.
On Season 8.
On Season 8, yes.
Well, I think the one that I had was episode 11 called The Gift, which basically deals with Gogget's trying to track around Mulder's final movements before his abduction. It turns out that Mulder has been seen in this small town. And, as we see in the pre-credits, Mulder drives into this house, walks in, shoots some creature 3 times and leaves. And it's slowly revealed that this creature is something called a soul eater, which basically eats people's illnesses away. And this town, the people in this town are basically using him as, I guess you could call it a quick emergency care unit for any occasion, anytime one of them becomes sick. But I mean, Mulder was there because I forgot to mention this in the mythology, but it turns out that Mulder didn't recover from that brain thing he had previously, and was in fact dying before his abduction, so he kind of allowed himself to be abducted. But he had stopped by to kind of hoping that this soul eater would cure him, but in fact he kind of felt pity for it and killed it. But of course that didn't stop the town people from bringing it back to life. Well, I guess the kind of notable thing that happens in this episode is that Doggett is killed off for a while, for like the commercial breaks. I don't know if this was some statement, where the showrunners kind of decided to give the audience what they wanted, and they killed Doggett off for a moment. Yeah, that was kind of one of the memorable standalones this season.
Yeah, that was a pretty good one. I can mention a couple that are fairly good. I don't have many notes on them, but I like the the Red Rum episode where it's basically just a murder investigation that flows backwards in time to reveal who killed this man's wife. It's kind of like I guess, Memento.
Yeah, that's the Memento divorce. Yeah.
Yeah. So I like that one. That one was pretty good. There's also, what was that other one? Medusa. The microscopic organisms in a subway that are burning away flesh but only if you sweat. So that was kind of a cool little thing, and there's actually some good teamwork between Scully and Dagen on this one, which we don't really see often enough, I don't think, this season.
Well, yeah, I mean, after that 3-month skip in between Mulder's burial and resurrection, she kind of gets so heavily pregnant that she's sidelined at that point.
Exactly. So yeah, there's those two, and other than that, I do have one shitty episode to mention. If you don't have one, I do anyway.
Well, I have one for season 9.
Oh, okay. Well, you do the one for season 9, I'll do the one for season 8.
Okay.
Actually, I might have one for season 9 too, but it might not be. If it's the same as yours, that'd be awesome. But anyway, the one for this season is, it's almost a good episode because it's so bad that it's funny. And that's the fucking paraplegic East Indian beggar guy through asses.
Oh yeah.
Badla, I think is his name.
Yeah, Badla. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just a ridiculous fucking episode that doesn't try to play up the ridiculous aspects of it. So it's treating the episode as this normal, serious tone. So fucking ridiculous that you can't help but laugh at it and be like, yeah, this is just fucking stupid. And then the whole ending is ridiculous. Like, how the fuck did he escape when he was captured at the end? But no, apparently he's back in India or whatever, waiting for more butts to crawl up into.
Yeah.
So yeah, that episode is a solid pass unless you want to get together with some friends and make fun of how shitty it actually is.
Okay.
So yeah, I guess on to season 9 now.
Yeah. So my first pick for season 9, and I'd say it's the best episode of season 9. I'll go as far as say it. I mean, it's called Improbable, and it basically deals with Reyes tracking down this serial killer by the means of using numerology. And all the while we kind of follow this serial killer around when he's kind of pestered by Burt Reynolds, who apparently is God. Or at least that's how the episode plays it.
Yeah. Well, it's either him as God or either he's God or Alanis Morissette is God. So one of the two.
Well, I mean, as I like to think, to all those who were raised up in the 70s and 80s, Burt is pretty much God anyway. So
yeah.
I guess this was the showrunner's version of that.
Correct.
But anyway, so God is basically trying to pursue this serial killer to change his ways or something. But what I like about this episode is, I guess this was about 2 years after Boogie Nights, so Burt is really in great shape still. And he really looks to have a real blast playing this character. I mean, playing card games, playing checkers, playing music, dancing, anything. I mean, it's as I did some research, and apparently Reynolds asked Robert Patrick if there was any character for him to play in the show. So we can thank Robert Patrick for that one.
Yep, and I mean, if this role wasn't written for Burt Reynolds, then that would be surprising because I mean it's basically a perfect role for him.
And as another note, it's an episode that's written and directed by Chris Carter, and I think we talked before that Carter's weaker point was comedy, at least before.
Yeah.
But I think in this one he kind of nails that perfectly.
He does, yeah.
Yeah.
It's he probably learned, I guess, over the years. Finally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also the fact that there's not that much Mark Snow's music in this episode. They use these, I guess, Italian and French songs composed by Carl Zero throughout the episode, kind of
Okay.
as act breaks. I mean, there's, cha-cha and all that type of stuff. And also, I mean, this is pretty much a Scully and Reyes episode.
Yeah.
And this is, I think, the best example of the kind of chemistry that Gillian Anderson and Annabeth Gish have together. I mean, I guess this episode kind of proves that it would have been interesting if it was really Reyes who was the new character from the beginning. I mean, it really shows that they play very well together.
Yeah, it's definitely one of her stronger episodes for sure.
Yeah.
I like the numerology stuff in this episode.
Well, I mean, it's yeah. I mean, Doggett, of course, doesn't take any of this seriously at first.
Yeah.
But then when Reyes kind of connects several murder cases through this numerology and I mean, she almost gets a career break. I mean, all the people from the office are kind of gathered together and applauding her that she has connected several unsolved murder cases. But then when she explains how she did it, I mean, it's just like, you can hear crickets almost.
Yeah, they do tie that numerology in really well with the Bert as God aspect, though, with the I can't remember if they say it specifically, but it's basically he gives you the numbers to play with, and it's up to you to win or lose based on those numbers.
Yeah, that's basically the idea. Yeah. But yeah, a pretty goddamn funny episode in middle of the season. That's I think even Chris Carter said that they had to have this kind of a bright spot in the middle of all the darkness throughout season 9.
Yeah, there's not exactly much on the light side this season at all, really, other than that one and one or two others, maybe.
I think I would put Burt Reynolds right up there with best of the guest stars throughout the series.
Oh, for sure.
So that's my first for season 9.
And I'll go with my first one. I will choose Scary Monsters.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one about a boy with a rather creative imagination that he can make manifest into the real world as illusions, more or less. And the opening sequence for this one is just fucking wonderful. Really creepy, really strange.
Yeah.
With the father basically locking his son in the room and then holding the door shut, even though his son is in there with apparently monsters.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that sets up, like, where the fuck is this episode going? Like, is the father a bad guy? Is there actual monsters? It really doesn't give you any idea as to the direction, and gives you some big question marks to deal with right away.
Yeah.
But anyway, eventually we get down to it tackling the child's fears and monsters under bed, that sort of thing, and that's handled pretty skillfully as an X-File. Even though it kind of loses its fear factor once you do get that reveal that they are just illusions. But the ending kind of makes up for that. It's
Yes.
Yeah. So this one ties back to Alone, which you covered, in that we get the return of Special Agent Leela Harrison.
Yeah.
And we get more of the references to the old cases, a lot more of that fandom stuff, like at one point she says Mulder solves cases better than you, Doggett, and and Doggett himself makes references to an old case, and then he apologizes for sounding like Harrison. So yeah, those are really good, and again, even at the end, we get another reference in that. I guess this is kind of the writers trying to say this is why Doggett actually works on the show, in that Harrison comments that Doggett only could have solved this case. Mulder couldn't have, because only Daga was able to not believe in the illusions.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that kind of makes their rational reason why the direction of the show changed with Daggett's involvement.
I mean,
Which makes sense.
I think Doggett even says during this episode that I think I'm starting to get a hang of this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I really like this episode. The monsters themselves are pretty cool. It's kind of varied. There's like bug-like creatures.
Mm.
Then the kid even imagines this like fake sheriff that comes to save them, and that sort of thing. And anyway, back to the ending, I guess. What was it? Last week, I guess, David Bowie passed away.
Yeah.
So I should mention that the title references one of David Bowie's songs, and the ending pays homage to the ending of Bowie's film, The Man Who Fell to Earth, in that the boy is basically watching a dozen television sets at once to try and keep his mind occupied so he won't cause a bunch of illusions and shit.
I think they said that they found a way to dull his imagination down.
Yeah. So it's kind of like a little of that and a little of just, if he's watching this stuff, he's not going to be imagining.
Mm.
Just keep him occupied.
Yeah.
But yeah, it would definitely dull his imagination watching TV and getting his, I guess, creativity from a different outlet.
Mm. Also, I mean, at least one kind of good comedy scene for Gillian Anderson here, when she kind of makes a joke to Harrison that she would need a cat's body to see what the cause of its death was, and of course Harrison manipulates her sort of could have been boyfriend to do just that. I mean, he shows up to Sky's apartment with this dead cat in a cardboard box. It's just...
Yeah. And then Scully does an autopsy on the cat, and she's wearing some sort of funny apron.
Man, yeah, I promise you.
I said on the apron, but it was something funny, like...
I forget, but I think
it was an
she
easy apron, anyway.
no, and she has to use kitchen utensils as instruments. So yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, that was a good episode. I like that one.
Yeah. So my second pick for season 9 is Sunshine Days, written and directed by Vince Gilligan. And basically it deals with Doggett, Reyes, Scully, and Skinner kind of working on this murder case where a man has apparently fallen on a car from the sky. But this basically leads them into a neighboring house where a character named Oliver Martin lives, who's played by Michael Emerson, who everybody remembers from Lost and Person of Interest now. Who turns out to be this miracle child who has some special psychokinetic abilities that he can basically, he can create, he can do what he can think of, pretty much. And he has this weird obsession with the Brady Bunch, so he has, of course, the Brady Bunch. His house looks like the Brady Bunch house from inside, and he has the kids from Brady Bunch running around. And, basically he's a recluse, and the only thing he can imagine is the Brady Bunch as his companions, but he also has really little control over his powers, so when people come in the house, he tends to kind of eject them through the roof.
Yeah. So yeah, he's kind of a lonely guy that just wants some friends, kind of.
Or family, or something.
Or family, yeah.
I mean, of course, he has even changed his name. I mean, his real name is Anthony Fogelman, but he has changed it to Oliver Martin based on this kind of a cousin Oliver character from the Brady Bunch, who is kind of, I guess, was kind of considered the black sheep of the bunch or something, or a jinx, as they address it.
Yeah, that's a fun episode as well. There only thing that kind of bugs me with this episode, I didn't rewatch it, so I'm not sure. Maybe there was some other reasoning or whatever behind it. But does he actually get into any trouble for killing the kids that brought him to the house?
Actually, no. That was a pretty weird thing. There were no consequences to the killings of the two kind of drunk delinquents who would try to break into the house. And one of those is played by David Faustino from Married with Children, actually.
Yes, yeah, because I recall they bringing him back to the FBI essentially because they're going like, yeah, this guy could be like really useful, and
he's
propping him up and all that.
I mean,
it doesn't matter that he killed people.
No. I when you said it now, I just realized that. Yeah, he was never really addressed about these killings. Actually,
No.
I mean, he was kind of treated as the living proof to all the supernatural. But then, of course, it turns out that his ability is actually slowly wearing his body down. So he has to stop that. He has to stop that. And once again, they are without any evidence. So.
Yeah. But it's more of a comedy episode anyway, so who gives a shit, I guess.
I mean, yeah.
It's kind of funny to me.
We have Agent Doggett walking on the ceiling upside down, for Christ's sake. And then I think that one of the most humorous Doggett moments when this doctor who they have brought along to kind of calm Oliver down kind of makes him focus, and in the background Doggett falls down. I mean, it's pure physical comedy, but I mean, actually, Robert Patrick actually made that one work pretty well.
Yeah. So yeah, speaking of Robert Patrick, we'll go to my favorite episode of the season, and this is the one I would actually call the best episode of the season.
Mm-hmm.
But in defending this episode, I will say it's not a very X-Files episode at all.
No, it's not. No.
But it is great, and that episode's called John Doe. And so basically this episode starts off with Doggett waking up in Mexico with no memory of how he got there, and more importantly, even who he is. So basically for the first half of the episode, there's no real clues as to what happened to him at all. You're just kind of along for the ride, more or less, as Doggett tries to figure out what the fuck he's doing.
Yeah.
Eventually we find out that there's this memory vampire that works for the cartel, and that's pretty cool, but again, even though that's the only X-Files aspect of the show, it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things to the episode's execution. It's more or less just a, I guess, reason for what happened to Doggett more than anything else.
Yeah.
They just wanted to make a lost memory episode, and that's what they came up with. And it does make sense, but yeah, like I said, that's not the focus. And that focuses on Doggett searching for who he is, dealing with these painful memories that he uncovers, because unmentioned going through the whole mythology thing was the fact that Doggett's son died a long time ago, and he's kind of still struggling with that, kind of like how Mulder was struggling with his sister's disappearance.
Yeah, they do have that in common, after all.
Yeah. So anyway, Doggett's getting these memories back slowly through the episode, and it all concludes with a really good moment where he's confronting the memory vampire, who asks him, like, why would you even want these painful memories back? Why the pain? And Doggett just replies, because it's mine.
Yeah.
And that just simple line is very impactful and encapsulates the entire theme of the episode, really. So yeah, Patrick's performance here is pretty much maybe even better than how I praised him in Via Negativa. That one was a bit more varied, and this one's more subtle, but given the circumstances, it makes everything that happens fairly believable.
Yeah.
Even with, like I said, the kind of unneeded tie-in of an X-File and a memory vampire, but they had to explain it some way. So yeah, I guess other than that, the most important thing about this episode is this one is also written by Vince Gilligan.
Yeah. Oh.
And it's the directorial debut of Michelle MacLaren,
who has
far greater things with Gilligan on Breaking Bad.
And also, she has directed several episodes in other HBO shows as well.
Game of Thrones, I believe, and a few others.
Yeah.
but yeah, so she's she's well known now, whereas back then this was her very first directing job.
Yeah.
Essentially, she learned from Kim Manners, I believe, on how to do things. And,
Yeah, I mean, she's been,
stylistically, she
I
went
guess,
a bit beyond his capabilities. Even.
I think she's, throughout these last couple of seasons, she's credited as a producer. So she was part of the team, but yeah, this was the...
Oh, yeah. She started on the show as a producer, yeah. But yeah, so this is her first directing job, you can still kind of pick out some shots that, I guess, convey what she's going to be capable of in Breaking Bad, such as the whole bus crash scene is really well done. And as I said in the opening, that this doesn't feel like an X-Files episode. It feels more like a Breaking Bad episode.
Yeah, it does have...
Mexican background.
Yeah,
and all
it has that. It has those yellowish tones.
Yeah, it's very gritty and grim, which is kind of different from what you'd normally see in the X-Files, in the light. Like, I mean, in darker episodes, like when they're wandering around with their flashlights and all that, those are obviously dark and grim X-Files episodes. But one that's dark and grim and it's daylight is a little different for an X-Files episode.
I guess, yeah, you could say that, we can kind of see Breaking Bad in the making already here.
Yeah, so, again, like I said, it's not very X-Files-y, but it's really well done and I think works perfectly as a standalone episode. And if you like Robert Patrick at all, it's a must-watch.
True.
That's all I have on that one.
Okay, do you have any other special mentions or...
I do want to mention, I guess, Release, the episode that basically reveals what happened to Doggett's son. Because I do like that explanation a lot, because it doesn't rely on anything paranormal whatsoever. I don't think there's anything in that episode that even references the paranormal. It's just a straight up, I guess, kind of whodunit investigation type episode. And we learned that essentially his son was kidnapped by a pedophile, but then a gangster mob guy kind of walks in on it, and to protect himself, he's the one that actually has to kill the child. So it's kind of like an accidental killing, but maybe he was also saving them, I guess, due to the whole pedophile thing. So yeah, it's kind of a hard episode to grasp, I guess, thematically as to what's going on there, but it does explain things rather well, I think. And there's a really, I guess, emotional scene at the end with Doggett spreading the ashes of his son.
Yeah, I don't have any other special mentions except my stinker of the season.
I'll mention one more, actually. Everyone hates Jump the Shark. I like Jump the Shark.
Funny that you should say that, because
That's going to be your stinker?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, Jump the Shark, I mean, what is, I don't know if it's a I don't know if it's a coincidence that once again my worst pick is kind of a backdoor finale to another Chris Carter show.
Yeah, that's true.
Basically acting as a series finale for The Lone Gunman. Well, okay, so basic plot is that Maurice Fletcher approaches the Lone Gunman with some information about the super soldiers, but they are already kind of dealing with this bioterrorist plot, and in the end, the Lone Gunmen are killed by a biotoxin of some sort. And, I mean, I don't even have that many notes about it. I mean, my only question here is that whose fucking bright idea was it to kill them off?
Yeah. I can see why that pissed off a lot of people. I mean, I don't have a big issue with them being killed off, because I guess in my mind I'm like, yeah, this is the X-Files. They could possibly come back. Who fucking cares?
Well, and of course, okay, so they do come back later on as Mulder's hallucinations in the series finale. But I don't know. I mean, if you, I guess this kind of tells how grim season 9 is, because basically tying up the storyline of the Lone Gunman basically is, just kill him. Yeah.
It's true. I mean, it probably wouldn't have killed them if it wasn't for the fact that Fox hated the Lone Gunman series after it more or less tanked. But yeah, I guess I just like seeing. I'm more interested in the return of Morris Fletcher than the Lone Gunman.
Well, Morris Fletcher was. I mean, he's always nice to see around.
Yeah, and the Eve Adele Harlow, I believe her name is. The missus that plays her is really good. I like her. So, I mean, I like the episode. It's definitely not one of the best episodes of the season, even. And, but I enjoy it for what it is, I guess.
No, I don't know.
It's hard to really defend it with the whole plot that's involved, but I like seeing the characters one last time.
That was my low point.
Okay. Well, I guess my low point of the series is one called Underneath. And that's basically a shitty version of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Sort of. Because basically it's just this murderer who acts through his alter ego, but doesn't want to act through his alter ego. I don't fucking know. It doesn't even make sense. He's let go after so many years. I guess his time in prison was up or whatever. And the reason he's not let go because time's prison is left up. Fuck. The main reason I hate this episode is that he's let go due to DNA evidence that says he's not the killer. Now, previously, or later after this episode, is it later or is it previously? No, it must be later. Anyway, we get the whole DNA evidence thing with Mulder and Spender and it being similar enough that they think it's Mulder. Right? So how the fuck is his DNA evidence here so different to let him free when it turns out that he is the one doing the killings as this other, I guess, alter ego of himself? It doesn't make any fucking sense. They would still have the same DNA, regardless of the fact that he can, I guess, turn into this other person. The underlying DNA would still be the fucking same.
Yeah, the writers should take notes from each other once in a while, I guess.
So, other than that nitpick, which, I mean, you can let shit like that slide. There's probably been worse mistakes than that in the X-Files.
Probably.
It's just a badly written fucking episode that's boring and, like I said, poor man's Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. If you're gonna rip off that material that is so well known and so good, you've got to fucking do justice to it. It's kind of like my complaint with that whole Genie episode back in 5 or 6. Like, I mean, that's a really cool concept that they just fucked up. So yeah, that's my complaint on that one.
Okay. Well, we have one last thing to cover, and that's the second movie.
Indeed.
X-Files, I Want to Believe, from the year 2008. So it's set about 6 years after the series finale.
Yes. Maybe 5 in the timeline of the actual movie, depending on what dates they showed. I can't remember.
I don't either. I mean, basically the story is that an FBI agent who is looking for some missing persons gets disappeared, and the only clue to finding her is apparently a priest who has some psychic abilities. So naturally, Mulder is called from his hiding to help in this case. And also this priest, former priest, is also a convicted pedophile, so there's that. And meanwhile, Scully is working in some Catholic hospital by her own name, actually. which I don't know. Okay, I'll go to my nitpicks later. But Scully has to kind of fight against hospital's religious beliefs in order to perform this controversial procedure on this young patient. So I guess both of these storylines are kind of deal with the title I Want to Believe. Scully has some religious issues, and Mulder has to decide, does he want to believe this priest to be a real psychic or not?
Yeah.
Hmm.
It's even more of a, I guess, Scully movie than a Mulder movie with the whole faith thing. Because, I mean, there's she having faith in religion, and also does she have faith in science to save the boy. So that's the big thing in the movie, really.
Yeah, but I mean, the Mulder storyline about the missing FBI agent turns out to be this mad scientist who is collecting people to his kind of Dr. Moreau type experiments, for lack of a better description.
Yeah, trying to do head transplants, essentially.
Yeah. But I guess my first beef about this movie is that it is a standalone. That was, we were kind of left off with Mulder and Scully, fugitives from everyone, and now suddenly when this weird priest comes along, all is so easily forgiven, Mulder is pretty easily persuaded to return.
Yeah.
I mean, just seems so off to me.
Yeah, there's definitely some loose ends connection-wise back to the series there. So in that way, it's kind of hard to like it, I guess, on an X-Files sense. Even though I do like the movie, but there's definitely a lot of flaws, and it could have been better. And I mean, I don't like it nearly as much as the first X-Files movie. I'd give this maybe a solid 6 out of 10, maybe, which...
That's pretty much what I would give it as well. I mean...
Yeah, it's an enjoyable watch, but it's not something you'd want to rewatch at all.
I mean, you said earlier that you like the Scully storyline. I, on the other hand, I hate it.
Oh, no, I don't like the Scully storyline.
Yeah.
I just think that's more of the focus of the movie than else. Which, when we get to, the whole head transplant angle or whatever, the kidnappings, I don't even think they spend enough time on that aspect to make it...
Yeah, no. I mean, that's...
right? The Scully stuff kind of gets in the way.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of my second point. I mean, the first mistake was making it a standalone. The second point is, you have all this cool kind of creepy, crawly monster type stuff, and then I guess about 60% of the movie is focused on Scully and her religious dilemma. I mean, it's like it's kind of, the whole movie kind of feels like they had these two kind of standalone episode scripts somewhere on the drawer, and they decided to mash them up together.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And I guess the other compelling aspect of the movie is the Father Joe character, which everyone hates because, I mean, he is a fucking pedophile. Or he was. I guess he's recovering now.
Yeah.
So it's kind of really hard to have any sympathy for him, even though he's more or less repaying for his sins based on these visions, because the visions are leading him to help someone who he had previously molested. So he's kind of getting a redemptive type experience, but I mean, how do you, I guess, feel glad for him that he is paying for his sins when he was a pedophile? It's kind of something hard to swing that way.
Yeah, I mean,
it's almost easier to pull for a former murderer to get
almost
than it is a pedophile, right?
Yeah, almost. Yeah, I mean, that's the basic problem with the character. I mean, it's a great performance by Billy Connolly, but the character is just, it's a misfire, really.
Yeah, they boxed in his backstory in such a way that you can't pull for him at all. It's just it was a poor choice on the writers. They could have had him be a bad guy and something way less offensive than that. I mean, you can't get much more offensive than that to most people. It's like, once you mess with fucking children, you're done. So.
Yeah, so I really don't know where the Chris Carter's head was at this point. But the movie is just so misguided in so many aspects that it's. I think the thing I like that it was nice to see Mulder and Scully again after 6 years. I mean that was cool. Yeah.
Definitely.
But the story just was all over the place.
It is. It's a definite mixed bag, and unfortunately, the bad starts to outweigh the good. So, but it's worth a watch. It's just not really
Memorable.
worthy. Yeah, it's not worthy of being in the X-Files, I guess. Whole shebang.
And also the misleading of the subtitle, I want to believe. I mean, we have seen that sentence for 9 years under the poster with the UFO. And so and then we get this. So it's kind of like, what were they thinking? But, well, luckily we finally get some real payoff in a few days, actually.
Yeah. Like, if we would have gotten a movie about what was supposed to happen in 2012 before this one, and we were getting, like, I don't know, like semi-annual movies, like all the fucking trilogies and shit have now, this might have came off a lot better.
Yeah.
But when you essentially wait that long, and then you don't address anything from the series, essentially.
Yeah, even Doggett and Reyes are not mentioned in the movie, and we have these two new FBI agents who are played by Amanda Peet and Exhibit, of all people.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's almost like the movie is kind of it's like it takes place in some alternate universe of the X-Files.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's I don't know. I guess that's all about. All I have to say about it, except that the practical effects with all the mad scientist mutant creating stuff are really cool.
All the effects work is really in the movie.
Yeah.
There's no complaints there. It just comes down to writing essentially on this one.
Yeah, it was seems to be a misdirected effort from the writing stages onwards.
Yep. And I guess the post-credit scene is a bit too cheesy.
Oh yeah, with them somewhere in the Caribbean floating in the ocean.
When you got the camera.
Like,
That's a bit too much, but.
I guess that was supposed. I guess that was kind of supposed to be the final time we see them, but luckily that's not the case.
No. So yeah, hopefully we get a better send-off now in the coming weeks.
Yeah.
Or hopefully not a send-off, as I've alluded to many times.
Well,
We need to just fucking reboot the series fully, and this is the tie-in to that. New agents, I don't care.
Well, we'll just see.
Yep.
But yeah, I guess that kind of concludes our retrospective of the show so far. And the next time we'll be up, it's after we've seen the 6 episodes. And we can evaluate the new stuff right after we've seen it, and not 16 years after.
Exactly. So it'll be a little fresher in our minds, and we're either going to go into this, I guess, kind of hoping it's good and either come out of it being vastly disappointed or fairly happy, kind of like most people with the new Star Wars movie.
Yeah, and so I guess we could wrap this up.
Yeah.
It's as long as it needs to be now.
Yeah, this is enough talk on the 2 lesser seasons, I think, for most people.
Yeah. So this has been Resist or Serve, finally caught up with all the retrospective episodes, and we'll be back right after we've seen the 6 new ones, and we'll sure let you know what we think.
Yep, 5 or 6 weeks from now, stay tuned for our, I guess, officially last episode. Maybe.
Maybe. Yeah. All right. See ya.
See ya.
Ça va. Quand je suis dans mon auto, ça va. Ça va. Quand je suis dans mon véhicule. Ça va. Quand je suis dans mon auto, ça va. Ça va. Quand je conduis mon véhicule. J'embraye. Ça va. Première. Ça va. Je fonce. Ça va. Clignotant. Ça va. Je tourne. Ça va. Seconde. Ça va. Attention. Ça va. Feu rouge. Ça va. Je respecte le passage piéton. Ça va. Conduire une auto, ça c'est extra. Ça va. Je maîtrise bien mon véhicule. Ça va. J'ai des gants de conduite, ça va. Ça va. Des gants de cuir qui sont en sky. Où tu vas? Je roule. Ça roule. Bouchon, je stoppe. Bonjour monsieur l'agent. Je repars. Je mets la radio. Et là, qu'est-ce que j'entends? Un débat. Oh là là. Il y en a qui disent que les motos ça va plus vite. Ils ont bien tort, car quand il pleut ils sont mouillés et dans mon auto, moi s'il fait froid j'ai toujours chaud. Et s'il fait chaud dans mon auto, je mets la clim et là j'ai froid. Ça va, rien ne m'arrête. Quand je suis dans mon auto, ça va. Oh oui. Ça va. Je suis un pilote. Quand je conduis mon auto, ça va. Je la place comme un car. Ça va. Je suis derrière vous. Conduire une auto, ça c'est extra. Je klaxonne un coup. Ça va.